This week on Arizona Illustrated, how a courtside moment for UA coach Adia Barnes helped normalize motherhood.
So I was like, I need to pump for 5 minutes at halftime just to kind of relieve the pressure and just real quick. So I go in there and pump while I'm talking to my staff.
Meet one Tucsonan who's taking the term cat person to a whole new level.
One of the main reasons I bought this house is so I can convert this into what I call the cat apartment. It's got a mixture of friendly and ferals.
And as butterfly populations exploded in 2021, what can we expect in the future?
In a drought year, those parasite populations crash, and it allows the butterflies the next year to expand very quickly.
Hello and welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. You know, the longer we live in Tucson, the more you'll realize you'll never see it all, and this place is a great example of that. I'm at the United States Handball Headquarters and Hall of Fame here in Tucson. I've driven by this place along Tucson Boulevard hundreds of times. I didn't know they were here, much less this was the headquarters. This museum serves as a shrine to the game of handball, featuring tributes to past and present stars of this sport, including memorabilia and these incredible portraits by Alvis B. Grant. It's also home to the Handball National Headquarters and Handball Magazine, the sport's only international publication. We'll be back in a few moments to visit with the executive director of the Handball Headquarters and Hall of Fame, Matt Kruger. But right now, enjoy this story about University of Arizona women's head basketball coach Adia Barnes, who discusses balancing family, being a role model, and normalizing what it means to be a mom.
Adia Barnes and the Wildcats will play for the national championship.
I always teach my players to be the best version of themselves, so I have to model that. And you're not trying to sell something, you're just being authentic and true to yourself. So I think on the outside, everything always looks perfect. And it never is. You never know what someone's going through. And I think for women, I think it's hard sometimes because we wear so many hats. But we're women's basketball, and the years of women coaching is the years they're childbearing. We can kick ass at both. It's one of the hardest jobs you'll ever have, and to me, that's doing more than what a typical dad does. I do see the double standards, but you know, I'm a mom. I'm proud of it. I'm glad to talk about it. Just past the first trimester, so I announce it on a Monday, and then I have like the miscarriage on like a Thursday. So that was kind of like, oh man, you know, that was a hard moment. Going for surgery on a Thursday, Friday night I have to coach. And so I remember sitting at the game a couple minutes, I'm like, you know, wanting to break down, like, why am I here? Like, I'm just had a miscarriage, like, I shouldn't be here. But then, like, my team played their hearts out. They were just like, they knew something was wrong. They didn't know at the time what I went through, but I think they knew something. And so they just played hard. We weren't gonna lose, we were bad that year. We weren't gonna lose that game. And then on the Saturday was my birthday, and I had 150 people at my house for an alumni event. So like, I didn't really have time to even grieve. And then like, I just smiled, whatever. And then Sunday coached again and just kind of didn't ever really take time off. So there's like 150 women. I talked about the story, but in an intimate setting to all those women. And then there was women like crying because so many women in the room have gone through that. And I didn't really understand how many people have gone through that. I was just sharing my story as a working mom. And then there was a writer in the crowd there. So then it became public for that. But I didn't care. I was kind of like, it is what it is. Like, that's what happened. Women across the country and like across campus, they'd come up to me crying like, I went through the same thing. Like so many women had like, and no one talks about it because it's a hard thing to talk about, but it's like so common. And so I think that's another thing I do for the players. They see behind the scenes stuff, and then they see me put on the face out in the public, and I think that's something they can learn to be resilient, because it is hard balancing all those things, but if it's easy, it's not worth it. Was like sweating in the game. I was like, why am I sweating? And then found out I was pregnant, took like 4 tests. So I was like, oh gosh, like I am deathly ill. Like this probably is not gonna happen. So could not tell anybody. Was like sick, but the girls knew something. I was eating like sauerkraut. And then like honestly, COVID hit and I was able to hide. So it was the best thing for me because I was just starting the show, because at this time I was like 3 months. And I honestly didn't tell people till like 5.5 months. And I told people on my friend's radio show, I don't think I would have sustained the pregnancy because I would have been traveling all over the world. And I would have been every day on a plane, not resting. I don't think at 44, with it was only a 29% chance I would carry to term. So she was like my miracle baby. So I got it. So like when I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like I look at the Final Four games, I'm like, Adia, you need to get in shape. Like you need to be a role model. And I look at my baby, I'm like, I would have gained 500 more pounds. Like I don't give a damn. Like it'll get there and I'm okay. I'm 44 with a newborn. Like I'm doing my best. So after my daughter was born, like the day that she was born, in the hospital I got preeclampsia. So it's very common in older, and it's very common in African-American women. But I remember I was in the hospital, and I just thought, like, because I'm 44, just had a C-section, I just thought, I'm struggling right now, I have a headache, everything's blurry just because I'm older. And then they did some testing. I had, like, such high blood pressure, I could have, like, had a stroke. And so they didn't let me out of the hospital. So in the hospital, monitoring it, they let me go a couple days later, but then I had to stay kind of on bed rest. Obviously, I did not. Had to measure my blood pressure like every, 3 hours, extremely high. So that's why when I started getting on the Zooms all the time, it was like stressful stuff. They were like, you can't do that. And so I did some, but I didn't do them every day. So I kind of had to take a step back. I obviously wasn't going to talk about it. So I took like 3.5 weeks. After a month, I went back, so I already missed like a week or 2 of practice. But I just sat more at practice, so they didn't know. And it went away after like 4 or 5 months. But it was a long time and it was hard. Like I still check it sometimes, but no one ever really knew except for my husband. So I'm trying to do a better job of balancing that and take care of myself. But the reality is right now, I'm not capable of doing that. Self-care for yourself as a mom always comes last. And that's just real. And I think that women aren't real when it comes to this stuff. It is what it is. And it's a short period, it'll pass. Normally, I would pump right before the games, so then during the games, I'm not in pain. Like those of you that have pumped before or breastfed, you know, like after a couple hours, your boobs are like up to here and you feel like you're like gonna explode. So there was media obligations before the game, so I didn't really have time to pump. So I went through the game, I was like, oh, I'll be okay. So I was like, I'm so stressed out, I'm probably not gonna even have a lot of milk because it was a stressful moment, the biggest game in my life. And so during the game, I remember feeling like, ooh, I don't want to like have my shirt wet with milk in front of 5 million people or more. So I was like, I need to pump for 5 minutes at halftime just to kind of relieve the pressure and just real quick. So I go in there and pump while I'm talking to my staff. They were used to it by then. Boobs everywhere all the time. And so I walk out and I was like kind of late. So Holly asked me a couple questions. She didn't know, obviously I didn't tell her. And then someone was like, yeah, she came out really late. So I think someone behind me in our organization said, yeah, she had to pump. And then I go out there, and then later on I found out she said it, and I wasn't mad. She said I didn't really care. Like I wasn't embarrassed about it. I was just like, I have to do it, sorry. But it's not something I wouldn't have told anybody. But that was my reality, so it like went viral. I didn't even think it was that big of a deal. So I just was like, yeah, like everybody has pumped, and like, I didn't even it didn't ever register. I was more worried about the milk on national TV. I wasn't worried about the pumping part. I was more worried like, I do not want wet stains here. I would like die. I think that it made it real. So many women talked about it. I'm like, wow. So many women have gone through that, or they haven't had a place to do it, or they've been in a crunch and need to do it for a meeting. So it was so relatable. And so I think that was good that we just brought attention to it. It makes me feel good that I think that I attracted some audiences that probably wouldn't have watched. So I think that was cool. And I think it was cool that I brought recognition to stuff that I didn't even know like it needed that much recognition. So, and it's cool that people chose me to be a voice, or if I can help like the next woman, or help someone accept like their assistant, let her breastfeed, or let her go and pump for 20 minutes. I think that if I'm supporting women and helping change, then I'm happy. Like, it's a blessing.
If you're like me and you love sports, I'm a huge Yankees fan, you need to check out AZPM's original podcast, More Than a Game. It's hosted by veteran announcer Tony Perkins. The show explores the untold stories of Arizona sports that most likely you've never heard. You can find it at the website originals.azpm.org/morethanagame, or you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And now back to handball. Joining me now is the Executive Director of the United States Handball Association, Matt Kruger. Matt, thanks for having us in. You're a well-kept secret, as we've established, but have a very passionate following in handball.
Yeah, it's from not only just here in Tucson and Arizona, but nationally. We have a very devoted group of players. Wherever you go, anywhere in the country, when you connect with that handball community, it's like, coming home to a second family.
Yeah, and big question, why Tucson? How did the headquarters, the Hall of Fame, end up in this city?
Throughout the 70s, Tucson actually hosted a few national championships. So the thought was, it's an excellent tourist destination. There's already a very strong group of players out here. Moved it out here in 1982, and it's been here ever since.
Matt, when you walk in, you're struck by the murals of past champions and executives all around us, people who had a special place in the handball world.
And there's actually a very unique story about that. Most of them are painted by one man, Alvis Grant. These are all the Handball Hall of Famers, whether they're players or contributors. Starting in 1953, he would give each person their own oil painting. When we opened the Hall of Fame official museum here in the mid-90s in Tucson, they went back to all these families. Some were passed away, some were buried in attics and missing. He repainted over 25 oil portraits in order for them to be ready for the opening of the museum, and continued to do so until he passed.
At the end of the day, if your painting is hanging in the Hall of Fame, you've arrived in handball.
Exactly.
It seems like, handball, pickleball especially, a lot of sports like that have caught fire in the last several years. Is it part of the fitness craze, or just generations aging into different sports, or?
Well, handball is unique, one of the unique sports, being a lifetime sport. You can play it from age under 8 to over 80. And we actually have 90 plus players that still play 3 or 4 times a week. Even in Harvard Medical publication lists handball as the best workout you can get playing a game. You can run and you can bike and probably get a better workout, but playing a game, handball delivers the best workout.
You better be in shape or it'll get you in shape. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, continued success. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
According to estimates, there are between 50 and 100 million feral cats in the United States, and they pose a real threat to local bird and reptile populations. Well, enter Tucsonan Clara Lee, who has a deep connection with cats. In fact, she has trapped, spayed, neutered, and released thousands of them in her lifetime, and even now permanently houses dozens of cats in her own home.
And I saw a few others, and I brought some extra traps. If you want them, might as well while I'm here.
Put them everywhere. Put them on the roof. Put them in the kitchen, whatever, just anywhere.
Okay. I had 14 kittens that I picked up on Saturday. That it is this time of year where we get dozens of calls a day. I mean, I have to admit that I've been doing this for over 3 decades, and there are times when it can be kind of frustrating and discouraging to think that I've been doing this for this long and we still have a pet overpopulation problem. Hi there.
Are you going to keep the cats?
We don't keep them, but we spay and neuter them and vaccinate them against rabies. But
Why don't you kill them?
We don't kill them because it's considered unethical.
Kill that son of a He
Okay.
feeds 40 cats every day.
Well, that's
Smelling my dumpster. I have to pick up cats all the time.
I'm sorry. That's not the service I'm offering, but
I'd
I
like
am
to kill
helping.
the damn things.
Well, that would be illegal.
Smelling my garbage can.
Yeah, the community cats are very, very controversial. They're people that would just prefer them be euthanized. Clearly, we don't see that as an ethical alternative. TNR stands for trap, neuter, release. So TNR is pretty much the only thing we've got at the moment. Nobody wants to see cats off the street more than people working in humane societies, but it's just literally physically impossible to take in every stray cat and try to tame it to find it a home. One of the reasons I like working with feral cats is they sort of walk this in-between line of animal rescue and wildlife. There are cats that are maybe the same genetic cat that we have sitting at home, but they're generations of just wild living on the street cats. So they're really just as wild as any bobcat, and to try to take that cat in and make a pet out of it isn't altogether that enjoyable for you or the cat. But this is a problem that humans have created, what with human sprawl and the invention of dumpsters and trailer parks, and we have given them a really good breeding ground, and they have really taken advantage of it. So we take them and we spay them, neuter them, vaccinate them, give them any medical care that they may need.
What about people that house them? Or there are companies that take in.
Right now, because it's what we refer to as kitten season, every cat rescue in Pima County is full.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. I really don't know what the deal is.
It's a frustrating situation.
It's too bad that, fix them does help, but there's just, how many can you fix?
Well, thank you for coming over. We're doing our best.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. This is my house, and I can introduce you to, this is Mash. He kind of almost has that ocelot kind of look, doesn't he? So this is Twinkle. Twinkle came in a trap and was spayed. When I first brought her home, I couldn't even pick her up without her biting me. Come on, bud. You can see his back legs. His back legs are actually backwards, but he gets around great. He's a happy dude. One of the main reasons I bought this house is so I could convert this into what I call the cat apartment. It's got a mixture of friendly and ferals. Most of the ferals that end up with me are usually here because they either have a medical reason that they really should not be released back out into the wild, or there really is not a safe place for them to go back to. Almost all of the animals that live here would be dead if I had not intervened. This is Sadie Rose. Hi, Sadie. I wanted a pig, and so I adopted her from someone who was trying to rehome her just because they'd had some life changes. I usually jokingly say if the cats are healthy and they don't have anything wrong with them, then they don't need to be here. So this is Ghostface Killa. He's a fecally incontinent cat. He's always kind of leaking poop, but he's a lovely, wonderful, sweet cat. It's just really hard to live with a kitty that leaks poop. But I had the ability to build this enclosure. So now he lives out here. This is Itty, a cat that loves to mark absolutely everything. Very difficult to have as an indoor pet, but the majority of the cats out here are feral. There's always shade in this enclosure. Yes, it is hot, but feral cats are also used to living outside. If you are a fan of feral cats, this is a feral cat lover's dream. So Professor X was found in a dumpster when he was just a few days old. My husband had passed away just before that, and my husband was suffering from brain damage. And so he thought he saw cats a lot, and he would ask about the cats, and sometimes he would be petting an invisible cat. And when he was in the hospital for so long, there was never a therapy cat to come visit him. I thought, wouldn't it be neat if I could train a cat to be a therapy animal, and then we could go visit people in hospitals and hospice. And so that's what we did. Professor X started hiking with me when he was a baby simply because he was a bottle baby and needed constant attention, and I was hiking a lot. So I was like, well, you're just gonna have to go with me.
Like, what type of cat is that one?
He was found in a dumpster in South Tucson when he was just a baby. And both of these guys came from feral cat trapping sites.
They have diapers.
She doesn't have control of her back legs or her paws. She's a happy girl, though. She's just the happiest kitty. And then this is Hawk. He was born with no front legs.
Oh my gosh.
Strange as it may sound, walking your cat on a leash seems to be becoming more and more popular, not just here in Tucson, but worldwide. People want to be able to give their cat the opportunity for that, that stimulation, that entertainment that we give our dogs by taking them for walks. So more and more people are starting to hike with their cat, camp with their cat, take their cats for walks on leashes. I learned about other people here in Tucson that do that. We formed our Arizona Trail Cats, or our Tucson Cat Hiking Club.
You want somebody? There you go.
What draws a person to do whatever it is they do, whatever they are passionate about. It's just something that you feel, that makes you feel like you have a purpose, and it's special for you and it's meaningful to you. There's something about felines and their energy that I'm drawn to, and we have a connection, and I think they feel it as well. There are lots of highs and there are lots of lows. The highs when you get to pull a kitten out of a dumpster and it becomes this amazing therapy cat. But it's also very frustrating to realize that I've dedicated my life to trying to solve a problem that is not anywhere close to being solved.
In recent years, the monsoon's been a real roll of the dice. Some years we've had record rainfall, others barely any precipitation at all. And the animals, plants, and insects that rely on those summer showers have been struggling to adapt. This next story shows how those drastic shifts can have unexpected outcomes, like butterflies, lots of them.
I feel like the desert is breathing a big sigh of relief after a couple years of functionally very little water.
There's parasites that keep the populations of butterflies down, small wasps and flies that either feed on the eggs or on the larvae. On a drought year, those parasite populations crash, and it allows the butterflies the next year to expand very quickly. Right now we're seeing one of the few benefits of a drought is this beautiful influx of snout butterflies and a lot of other butterflies too.
The Thallus aioli, that's the Latin name, and then the English common name is the dainty sulfur. And that's because it's so tiny. So most things are bigger, like you see those big fat yellow ones. They're relatives of this. Hi, darling. I'm gonna put you back and see if you're gonna stay. Oh, all right, fine. You wanna stick around for a little while? Yep, flex, flex. Sort it out.
This is what's called a beating sheet, and it's a great way to look for caterpillars. The larvae of these butterflies are very cryptic and they're very difficult to see. Oh, there's a big fat one. Wow. You can see how plump he is. Looks like a little pickle with horns. He's cute. My name is John Palting. I have a PhD in entomology from the University of Arizona, and I've been studying butterflies and moths in this area for around 40 years. And this is a pretty extraordinary year in 2021.
Ooh. I'm Professor Katie Prudick. I'm an assistant professor of community and data science at the School of Natural Resources and the Environment, at the University of Arizona. This is actually one of my favorites. This is the dog-faced butterfly. I study how butterflies make a living, especially in light of climate change, and how we can make their lives better through this process. Insects are amazing. They were the first animal to take flight, and they did it a long, long time ago. And that flight has made them pretty successful. They haven't really experienced any mass extinctions. They've certainly experienced declines. The West has experienced dramatic declines in butterflies, so there is a cause for concern there. When I think about butterflies, I think about two functions they serve, other than to make me happy. They are part of the pollinator guild, and they're partly responsible for creating the next generation of plants.
These are the larvae of the snout butterflies, green ones.
The big thing, too, is that caterpillars, as it turns out, are excellent snacks for many, many animals.
This is the pupa of the Empress Laelia that's on the hackberry. So if you look on your hackberry plants, you might see both of these species.
What we have over here are some mud puddling butterflies. Now, mud puddling butterflies usually are male butterflies who are acquiring micronutrients to give as a gift to their female mates. So butterflies not only provide sperm when they mate with females, but also nuptial gifts is what they're called in the biological literature. It's kind of fun to think like they have these complicated lives, right?
With the internet, we get a lot of tales of, butterfly declines and a lot of bad news. So it's kind of heartening to see such abundance of butterflies this year in Tucson.
Over the last 5 years, this is a really phenomenal year. If we look over 20 years, it's probably about average. If we look over 50, it's probably a little below average. We're seeing a good population, and that's great and something to celebrate.
Thank you for joining us from the United States Handball Hall of Fame and headquarters right here in Tucson. I'm Tom McNamara. We'll see you next week for another episode of Arizona Illustrated. Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated, and thanks for watching our entire show here on YouTube. And if you liked it, well, here are some stories from other episodes that we think you'll like.